Hello, my name is Michael Levy. I'm a co-director of the PASS course. I'd like to welcome everybody to part 2 of the PASS session for Indian CAs who would like to achieve their Canadian CPA. In part 1 of the session, we covered off the first 2 points in this agenda. We talked about the CPA program that you need to go through in order to obtain your CPA, and we talked in detail about the common final exam which everybody needs to write to pass their CPA. In point 2, we dealt with preparing for the exam, including both case writing as well as technical studying. If you did not watch part 1 of this session, I would suggest that you watch the video on part 1 prior to watching this video. You can watch the video for part 1 by simply clicking on the icon in the top right of this YouTube video. In this video, which comprises part 2 of the session, my partner, Ira Walfish, is going to be covering the following. Number 1, he's going to be talking about the PASS program for Indian students. This is a program that we designed specifically to meet the needs of Indian students to enable them to get through the Canadian CPA. We'll then talk about scheduling. How do you decide when to write the exam? How much time do you need to study? Ira will also show you just 3 or 4 testimonials from prior Indian CAs who've taken the PASS course. We've taught many Indian CAs over the years. We'll just show you 3 or 4 testimonials for successful Indian CAs who were successful in passing their CP. And then in point 6 and 7, Ira will talk about registration, both with PASS as well as with a provincial institute. And then finally, at the end of this video, Ira will provide you with contact information both for PASS as well as our affiliate in India, Orbit. I hope you find this video helpful.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. My name is Ira. So I've been following the session with Michael, and we work together in teaching all of these courses. So I'm going to continue on with the presentation, and I'll try and watch the chat box as well. If there's any questions. Okay. So who are we? Basically, we've been doing this for a long time. I believe we're the oldest actually firm in Canada that has been doing preparation for the CFE, which used to be called the UFE. We have offered courses within all of the large firms. Currently, we actually teach PwC across Canada. So we prepare all of the PwC students to pass the CFE. Michael did very well on the CFE. He actually came first in the province, and he actually won the gold medal. And overall, we're very happy with the program. It's working, and the feedback has been very good from students. So what we did a number of years ago is we designed a course specifically for Indian and other international students. We felt that, the system in India is very different. So we just felt that we had to put together a lot of what we do for the students in Canada and kind of add a few things for students from India. So we obviously include the technical component, the case writing, and we have something called personal counseling, which I'll explain in a minute. Just to get a look at the overall picture, people, this is the overall picture. Some of the program is self-study. So we send you a technical binder, a hard copy binder, whether you're in India or Canada. You watch videos. You're studying on your own. You could also write some sample cases on your own after you watch an introduction to case writing. And some of the course is formal instruction, where you'll write cases, you'll hand them in, we'll mark them, we'll send them back. We'll have classes online, either Canadian time, or we run a lot of classes on IST time in the evening. So part of the course is self-study and part of the course is formal instruction. This is kind of an overall picture. Now, the technical study, I think Michael has mentioned this, so I'll just be brief. That by technical studying, what we mean is you need a base. You need to know the financial accounting sections. For example, I don't know, you need to know how to account for different things, leases, foreign currency. You need to know technical in management accounting, contribution margin. That's what we mean by technical. So some of it is specific in Canada, as Michael mentioned, like for financial accounting, there's both the IFRS part, which many people from India may be more familiar with, and then there's the ASPE part, which is for private companies, which you'd have to learn. And as Michael mentioned, tax would be something that would be different because you'd be learning Canadian tax. So it's very important to have a technical basis for all of the 6 areas. And then for case writing, that really is a new skill that we simply have to teach you how to write these cases for day 1, day 2, and day 3. All 3 days really are case writing. Okay? And what we do in the program is we try to provide a lot of cases, which I'll show you more detail in a second. Someone is asking, Sahil is asking, if I wish to work in, say, transfer pricing, will tax be the subject to go for? Okay, as Michael said, look, I don't want to complicate this. There was only one choice to make on this exam, and that is on day 2, where you choose a role. The basis for that choice should be what you are best at. It doesn't really matter from a work perspective what you choose. You are choosing something that you think you'll do best on the exam to help you pass. So you could go into tax the next day after writing the exam, but it may make sense to choose not tax, but to choose finance if you like finance better or you think you'll do better on finance. That's all that really matters on day 2. It is also not a choice you need to make at the beginning of the process. It is something you will make down the road. It is not really something to worry about now. And there is no implication on work, job, or anything like that down the road based on what you choose. It is simply to choose something that you think you'll do best on to pass the exam. Okay, what are personal counseling sessions? Personal counseling sessions, very simple. You hand in a case, the marker marks it, and then sits down with you, probably virtually over Zoom or something like we're doing now, and they spend half an hour or 40 minutes, and they go over the case with you. We call that a personal counseling session. We do that 3 times. That is quite a bit. To be honest, it's more than what we do for in our Canadian student program. We do actually 3 for Indian students. Okay, sorry, just want to make sure. Okay, now, as most people are aware, you do not have to take Capstone 1 and Capstone 2. You are exempt under the MOU. As Michael mentioned, we will obviously prepare you for all 3 days. Capstone 1 prepares you really for day 1. We will be doing that. Capstone 2 is simply practice case writing. I will show you in a minute how we've integrated Capstone 2 into the program. Now, we offer the courses the way we're doing now. We offer the courses live online. We do everything Canadian time, Eastern Standard Time. We do some of the sessions, not all of them, IST time. The truth is, if you miss a session, it doesn't really matter. You watch the video. We record everything. You have unlimited use of the recordings. So you don't run out. It doesn't matter. There's no maximum. You can watch the recordings as much as you want. So even if you cannot attend the live online session Canadian time, let's say in the evening, which is not going to work well if you're in India, because it will be, I don't know, 3 in the morning. Doesn't matter. You can watch the video. Or if you're living in India, you cannot attend IST time. Doesn't matter. You watch the video. So look, overall, it is a pretty large course. We think it's pretty extensive. You can kind of see these points of what it includes here. The reality is, get this, the reality is that notwithstanding the fact it is an extensive course, as Michael mentioned, you can, you work full-time. You work full-time. Not a problem. This is not a full-time thing. No one has to quit their job. You can work full-time, make a living, and at the same time, you are studying. Someone's asking how long the videos will be available. As long as you need them. We don't cut people off. Our goal is to help you pass. So everything will be available as long as you require it to pass the exam.
Let's now talk about the past schedules. When it comes to the past schedules, you can find them on the past website, passyourcpa.ca. On the homepage, if you look at the top of the screen under admin/schedule, you would click on admin/schedule, and then you would click on master schedule. And what you're going to see for the September exam are two versions, a version 1 and a version 2. The reason we have these two versions is one version begins earlier than the other. So the classes are the same for both versions. It's an identical course, but the advantage of version 1 is you begin to write cases earlier. Therefore, unless you're registering for the past course within a very short period before the CP, so it's too late for you to take version 1. Unless that's the case, we strongly recommend that you choose version 1, because the earlier you begin your case writing, the better. For the May exam, there are not two versions. You have to start relatively early. For September exam, we do give the choice of two versions, but again, we strongly recommend the earlier version. If you're writing in May, everybody starts early, and the earlier you start, the better, quite frankly, because there's a major learning curve involved in learning how to write cases. Now, how much time do I really need to prepare for this exam? So I've underlined here the fact that earlier is always advantageous. Okay, the earlier the better, simply because there's a lot of technical material to master. And as I just mentioned a moment ago, it does take some people a fair amount of time to master case writing. It's very doable. Anybody can learn how to do it, but some people take longer than others. And that's why if you don't know how long it's going to take you, the earlier you start, the better. Those writing the Mayo 23 exam, ideally it would be great to start now. When I say now, this video is being recorded in mid-October. That would be ideal. If at all possible, even November is fine. And if necessary, even a little later than November. But I would try not to start much later than November, because you need a number of months in order to be prepared. And when it comes to the September CP, again, it's not a huge hurry to start. Right now, as I said, this video was recorded in October of 2022. If you're writing in September, you don't have to start now, but it's certainly a good idea to, because the longer you have, the better. If at all possible, I'd suggest you start no later than about January of 2023. If for some reason you need to start a little later, that's fine. But I do not recommend somebody start studying for this exam, 2 or 3 months before the CP. Now, this advice is predicated on the assumption that you're working. If you're not working, then you may need less time. But most people are working while they write this exam. People often ask me, how many hours a week do I need to study? So again, assuming you don't start very close to the CP, you give yourself the amount of time we just mentioned, you probably need about 10 to 15 hours per week while you're working. If you're not working, obviously you can spend a lot more time. You might be able to spend 40 hours a week. That's why if you're not working, you can start closer to the exam and may still have a chance of passing. But again, if anybody's worried, oh, I'm going to be working, will others be working? The vast majority of people writing the CP are working while they're studying. That includes not just international CAs, but Canadians too. Pretty much almost everybody, unless they didn't find a job for some reason, almost everybody is working while they prepare for this exam. So it's very normal to be juggling work along with study. Very, very doable to work while you study for your CP.
I'm not gonna waste time reading out the testimonials. You can look on our website. We have many testimonials from both Canadian and students and Indian students. We have many, many testimonials. You can read these testimonials that you know, thankfully, you know, we take these seriously. We're always looking for feedback. So we're happy. We're very happy with all the testimonials, basically, that people are happy with it. So we keep putting them onto the website. We have a lot of them there. But again, we want feedback. Okay, if something is not working, we want to know if something is not working. So again, you can read these. I'm not going to waste time reading these out. I'll deal with cost. Aman is asking. I'll deal with cost in a minute with respect to the whole program. Okay, Aman, I will deal with it. Okay, right now, here we go. Registration and fees. Okay, so in order to register, you register online on our website. We have one place for people in Canada, Indian CAs in Canada, and we have another place for foreign students, people who are not living in Canada. Okay, so you register online. Now, we give a 15% discount. So you really need to speak to us first because there's a discount code and we give you the discount code. You can either do it through email or WhatsApp us and we give you the code, but we give a 15% discount. If you're in Toronto, if you're in Canada, and you register with the ICAI, we give a 15% discount. We encourage that. We think it's very helpful if you're a member of the ICAI. If you're living in India, you're also eligible for the discount. Oh, someone is asking for these links. If I could do that here. Someone, yeah, I can here. Just give me one sec. Someone is asking for these links in the chat box. Just give me one sec. Okay, sorry, just give me 1 second here. I don't know if I can do that here. Okay, you know what? I will do that, we'll do that at the end. We'll copy and we'll paste these links into the chat box. You can just go to our website and you should be able to find it under courses if you go to Pass Your CPA. www.passyourcpa, all one word. Okay. Now, there really are three. I want to explain three options. I'll just go a little bit slowly here because I want to make sure people understand this. You are exempt if you have a CA from India. You are exempt from Capstone 1 and Capstone 2. Option number 1, we have incorporated, okay, in option number 1, we have incorporated Capstone 1 and Capstone 2 into the pass course. Okay, option 1. That is what most people do. We recommend that the most. Option number 2, you could take the pass course and attend Capstone 1 and Capstone 2. It is optional. You could attend the official Capstone 1 and Capstone 2 like a Canadian student. Now, it's only relevant if you're living in Canada because otherwise you'd have to make about 4 trips to Canada to do that. So if you're living in India, forget what I just said. But if you're living in Canada, you could do number 2. Hardly anybody does that because it doesn't make a lot of sense and it just costs more money. And there's a downside. I'll explain in a minute. The odd time a person does it, there's a special situation. Maybe they work for a firm and the firm says, I'm going to pay for Capstone 1 and 2, and they attend Capstone 1 and 2, no problem, and then they still attend the pass course. Option 3, you attend the pass course and you do not attend Capstone 1 and 2. Not recommended. You could do it. Not recommended. Okay? Because the Capstone 1 and 2 is kind of, I don't know if I should say necessary, but it is very, very helpful. Okay? So most people do option 1. Option 2, very, very few. Option 3, also very, very few. Now, let me explain how this ties in to the dollars. So the course basically costs $2,375. That's after the 15% discount. So it's $2,795. This is all Canadian dollars. $2,795. We give a 15% discount. And then we ask students, this is option 1. You are not going to capstone 1 and 2. But we want you to purchase the capstone 2 material for $250. You don't pay us the $250. You pay CPA. You buy that material. So this really is your full cost. You're paying past $23.75 and you're paying CPA $250. Okay? This includes the capstone 2 case writing. Capstone 2 is only practice case writing. We will be marking those capstone 2 cases. We have incorporated the capstone 2 into our course. So in total, if you want to know how many, look at the last bullet point. You'll be writing approximately 22 total cases, which is quite a bit. These are all marked. So that is a decent number of cases that you'll be writing and getting marked. That's a lot of feedback. The markers mark it, they give comments. That's very important. That's one of the ways that people learn. Everyone okay? That is option 1. Now, option 2, you take our past course, but you don't take the capstone 2 component. You take that directly with CPA. So we are going to charge you less. We are not going to charge you $27.95 because we don't have to mark a bunch of the cases, the capstone 2 cases. We don't have to mark. CPA is going to mark those. So we charge you $19.95 and we give the same 15% discount, $16.95. But then you're taking capstone 1 and 2 with CPA, and that costs $1,300 each. So it's much more expensive. It doesn't make a lot of sense because we're doing the same thing for capstone 2. And capstone 1, we don't even recommend you go to capstone 1. Canadian students have no choice. They have to go. But students with an Indian CA do not have to go. Capstone 1 is a lot of wasted time. They're trying to teach skills in capstone 1 that you don't need a lot of for the CFE. Canadian students have no choice. You have a choice. It is not a great use of time. So forget the money for a second, forget the dollars. This is not the greatest use of your time because capstone 1 is time consuming, by the way. When you're in capstone 1, you're not doing much else. You're just doing capstone 1. So it's not a great use of time or money, which is why we don't really recommend this. Sorry, someone, just one sec, someone's asking a question here. I posted the link, say fine. If I'm already registered to be an Ontario student, then what is the deadline to appear for the exam? Okay, what's going held? I'm going to answer that in a second. Nimesh, I'm going to answer. Nimesh was asking a question about registering with the Institute. Give me a second. I'm pretty sure I'll answer it in the minute it comes up in a few minutes. Okay, the third option where you're not taking capstone 2 with us. So we charge you the lower price, $19.95, minus the 15% discount. So we charge you $16.95. You don't have to, but you're probably going to buy the capstone 2 material, $250. But you're not going to have us mark the capstone 2 cases. You will write them on your own and mark yourself. Some people do this. This is more realistic than option 2. Some people do this. Most people want option 1 because they want us to be marking the cases and get them professionally marked, but you could do this. The rest of the program is identical. It just means we are marking fewer cases, and you can mark those others on your own. So if you look at the bottom here, how many are we marking? This is what we're marking. Remember before I showed you about 22? Now we're marking 10. Actually, total number of cases more professionally. Okay, this is missing, sorry. We're missing here, sorry, it's not actually 10, there's a typo here. We're marking 2 day 1 plus 8 day 3, plus we're also marking, 2 day 2. So we're actually marking about 12. Okay, sorry. So we're marking about 12 cases versus 22. So the only real reason people do option 3, to be totally honest, is if they simply cannot afford the $23.75 and they can only afford the $16.95. If people cannot afford that, that is the reason that people will choose. That is the reason that people will choose this option. Mohammed is asking, what does marked mean? Mohammed, marked means you write a case sitting at your computer. You're answering a question on Word and Excel. You email your answer to me. I give it to a marker. The marker has a marking guide. They mark your case based on the passing formula, whatever, based on a system that I'm not explaining now, that we explained right at the beginning of the course. They are marking your case. Then they will email it back to you. You will get marks. You will get comments. Those comments are important. The marker is going to tell you what you did right and what you did wrong. The marker is going to sit there with your paper for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes and mark it. So for every paper we incur costs because we have to pay those markers who mark the paper. They're sitting with your paper for 20, 30, 40 minutes and they're marking it and they're emailing it back to you. Okay, hopefully that, okay, you're welcome. All right. So as I said, people, look, we recommend option 1. We mark more cases. Obviously, that is advantageous. You don't waste your time on capstone 1, which is great. Option 3, as I said to you, if you have very limited funds, it's not ideal, but you could do it. We still give you case writing. Everything else in the course is identical. All the lectures are the same. The videos are the same. So you could do option 3. It just means we are marking fewer cases. That's it. Okay. In order, look, we know the dollars are not small, but I can just tell you a few things. Number one, if you look on our website, what we have put together for Indian students is much less expensive than for Canadian students. We combined pretty much everything we have into the program because we know that Indian students need this. We let people pay by credit card. We let people pay by installments. We do not charge interest. The installments plans are flexible. So you need to speak to us. So we try our best to make it work. In a perfect world, we could charge lower. The problem is we are trying to mark a lot of cases. That is our biggest cost, but that is important. You need feedback from professional markers. That's expensive. So we charge as little as we can, and we try to work with the installments to make it very flexible. Okay? If you want to look at the total cost, how much would the whole thing cost you? Assuming you choose option 1, we mark the capstone 2 cases. Remember the 26.25 I showed you before. The other costs involved. Let's say you're registering with one of the provinces. Let's say CPA Ontario. They're all about the same. Ontario, 125. Annually, the student fee is about 600. The CFE, the exam, you have to pay 1,500 to write the exam. This is if you're already in Canada, 48.50. If you have to travel to Canada, throw in 1,500. That's an approximation, how much it will cost to go to Canada. This is Canadian, 63.50. US dollars, whatever, approximately 4,600. This is your total cost. The program we are talking about is 26.25. Okay? Now, all right, registering. Someone asked me a question before.
Can you
We will
repeat
look, as
again?
Michael mentioned.
Can you repeat again the last slide? That is for the total cost.
Oh, sorry.
That's what, yeah, this one.
Sorry, what, you have a question or you want to see it again?
Yeah, there is a total fees to obtain the CPA approximately is $5,000.
Yeah, this is
US dollars.
approximately how much it will
US dollars,
cost
okay.
you overall to get your Canadian CPA.
Yeah.
Our program, 2625, and the various fees with the Institute and for the C fee, 125, 600, 1500. And then if you're traveling to Canada, another 1500. This is the total fees of how much we're saying approximately what the whole thing will cost you to
The
get your
annual
Canadian
student-
CPA.
Annual student fees is on annual basis?
Yes, the annual student fee, yes. Once you have a Canadian CPA, there is an annual fee that you have to pay to keep up your Canadian CPA. That is correct.
Okay, okay.
It's not a student fee, it's a CPA fee that every person has to pay, an annual fee.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, okay, okay.
Let's talk now about registration with the CPA Provincial Institute. In order to write the CFE, you would register with CPA Ontario if you're planning on living or already live in Ontario. So for example, if you already live or are planning to live, say, in Toronto or Brampton, you would register with CPA Ontario. And you would register with CPA Western School of Business, known as CPA WSB, if you're living or planning to live in one of the Western provinces, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, or Manitoba. There are many Indian CAs, for example, who live in Vancouver or areas around Vancouver. They would be writing in BC. Vancouver is the major city in BC. We recommend you register, fairly soon to make sure that it's not too late. If you plan to write the CFE in May 2023, given that you need to be registered with the Institute before you can write the CFE, and given that it takes significant time for your registration to be processed, particularly by CPA Ontario, it's in your best interest to register as soon as possible. So I really wouldn't hold off registering with CPA Ontario. Even if you're writing in Western Canada, it goes a little bit more quickly, but again, I wouldn't put off too long registering. If you plan to write in September 2023, do not register until January 2023 to avoid paying any fees for the 2022 year. Because if you register in January of 2023, there'll be enough time for your registration to be processed in time for you to register to write the CFE. You have to separately register with the Institute and then separately register to write the CFE. So even if it takes a while for the process of registering with the Institute to take place, you'll still have more than enough time to register for the CFE if you wait until January of 23, as long as you're writing in September. But if you're writing in May, I would try to register as soon as possible. After registering with an institute, you need to register to write the CFE about 3.5 months before the CFE. So for example, if you're writing in September, you wouldn't have to register typically till around, you could wait until close to the end of May. That's why even if you only register with an institute in January, you should be fine. But if on the other hand, you're planning to write in May, then the registration deadline is usually early February. That's why you'd want to start the registration process as soon as possible. One important point, however, that it's very important you understand, you can start the PASS course immediately. You do not have to be registered with the Canadian CPA Institute to start with PASS. So registration takes quite a while with CPA Ontario. If you started this very moment, your registration may not be complete for 12 weeks. It can take anywhere from 8 to about 12 weeks. It's quicker with CPA WSB, but at the end of the day, there is absolutely no reason to waste time waiting until your registration goes through before you register with PASS. I would strongly recommend that you register with PASS as soon as possible so you can get started on your studying, and that way you can be studying and preparing while your registration is being processed. We have not had problems in the past with students not being able to register with a CPA institute. That's never, ever been a problem. Because as long as you're a CPA in good standing, as long as you're a CA in India with good standing, there's no reason that there should be any impediment to your registration. So you're wisest to start studying and therefore register with PASS, get the materials, start writing the cases while your registration with the Provincial Institute is taking place. If for some unforeseen reason, and again, I haven't seen this happen, but if for some reason something went wrong with your registration with the Provincial Institute, PASS would in any case give you back your money. But again, that has not been an issue at all in the past. Regardless of which province you register with, you can practice in any province. So don't worry, if you're initially planning to live, let's say in Vancouver, register with register with CPA WSB. And if later on you decide to move to Toronto, that's no problem. Once you have your CPA, you can practice anywhere in the country, okay? So at the end of the day, for now, just register based on where you either are living right now or are planning to live. Don't worry about the future, because once you're a CPA, you can go anywhere in Canada and practice. We've provided here some useful links for CPA Ontario and the CPA Western School of Business. You can look at it on your own. In terms of contact information, we're always very, very happy to take inquiries. So if you have any inquiries, please feel free to contact myself or Ira Walfish. Ira, just to be so you're aware, Ira will be away from around October 25th, approximately, until around November 7th. So during that period, it's best to contact myself, Michael Levy. Otherwise, feel free to contact either of us. At the end of the day, we really do try to provide support. We understand that students have questions, whether they're in India or they're in Canada, makes no difference. They're not familiar with the Canadian program. We're always available to answer any questions you have before you register, as well as any questions you have once you're registered and you begin the program. You may have questions on the technical, you may have questions on case writing. We pride ourselves on being available. As you'll notice from one of our former students, notice in his testimonial, he says, "I thank you and Michael for your continued," by you he means Ira, "for your continued guidance, support, and prompt responses for any questions I ever had." We believe that that's a very, very strong point of the PASS program. So the three most important takeaway points from this session: the process is totally doable while working full-time, whether you're in India or Canada or elsewhere. Start writing cases as early as possible. Practice is critical, so make sure you write all the cases used in the formal portion of the course and additional self-study cases if you have time. And then finally, technical review is critical, but you don't need perfect technical before you start the case writing. Keep that in mind. So at the end of the day, you want to start the case writing early. Don't have the attitude, "Oh, I can't start my case writing because I don't know my technical perfectly." You can learn a lot when it comes to writing cases well before your technical is fully up to speed. So there's no question you need to do a technical review, but don't wait until your technical is perfect before you begin your case writing. You can, number one, still begin to acquire good case writing skills before your technical is fully up to speed. And furthermore, you can learn a lot of technical from your case writing. Because if you write a case and you're not up on a particular technical issue, as part of your own personal debriefing of the case, you can always go ahead and as part of your personal debriefing, try to fill in that technical gap by going back to the technical notes. So effectively, you're going to be learning how to write cases and learning your technical basically in tandem. For those of you who are not yet in Canada, we've given you some links to videos relating to immigrating to Canada as well as life in Canada. I hope that you found this session useful. I wish you all a good day.